Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be doing my patch 13.11 Clash tier list. So if you enjoy the content, like and subscribe, and let's get into it. To begin with, this is after mid-season. There have been a huge amount of changes. As there wasn't Clash on 13.10, I have lots of patches to catch up with. So let's get going. To begin with, there were a couple of changes on 13.10. Most of these were AP adjustments and the Nico changes. There were a couple of hotfixes, Yasuo, Yone, and Kindred among them. And a lot of these champs are performing a lot better now. So let's get into it. Top lane, we're going to see Nico added to the tier list as an A tier top laner. She's performing quite well. Definitely consider playing her. She is a 3-way flex, lots of, well, 4-way flex if you include support. She has a lot of value within draft, so definitely consider it. Renekton is going to be moving up to the B tier. Renekton's buffs were really nice for him. Having his ult being more often later on into the game does a lot for a champ like Renekton. It allows him to scale a lot better into the end game where he used to struggle a lot more. Rek'Sai gonna be put in the A tier. Rek'Sai with her buffs actually benefited as a top laner quite heavily. There is a chance Rek'Sai is overpowered as a top laner, so keep your eye on Rek'Sai. She's performing very well at the moment. Azir is gonna move up into the A tier. More Azir buffs means he keeps going up on the top lane. Azir is bordering S tier top laner. He is really strong at the moment. Definitely consider picking him up. Yone is going to move up into the A tier. The hotfix did a lot for him. Now that people have figured out how to itemize him correctly with things like Gale Force, he moves up. Yasuo, still not a great top laner, does fall short into certain matchups, but Yone performing quite well at the moment. If you draw Yone, definitely play him. Ornn is going to go down a tier. Ornn had part of his buff reverted. They rebug fixed him, and in turn, he lost a bit of win rate, so he goes down a tier. Olaf is going to move back up into the S tier. Olaf is performing a lot better with Triforce and Stridebreaker buffs. Karma is going to move down 2 tiers. They have killed Karma. The mythics are nowhere near as good as they were on her, and she's performing a lot worse at the moment. Things like Imperial Mandate as a non-mythic is one of our best options, so definitely look into that, but for the moment, avoid Karma. That's mostly it for the top lane. There are a couple of things I've probably missed here, but for the most part, there weren't a huge amount of top lane adjustments, so we move on. For jungle, there were a couple of changes. Kindred got hotfix buffed, and in turn, she goes up a tier. She's performing a lot better now. Rek'Sai is going to move up to the S tier, performing really well with her buffs. Stridebreaker, Cleaver, Edge of Night all work quite nicely on her. Nico is going to be moving up to the A tier. Her buffs combined with people getting more efficient, her clear has shown that she works quite well as a jungler. Ivan is going to move up into the S tier. Now that they fixed the bug with his passive, he on his W on hit on a lot of champions where it bugged them out, he is doing a lot better. There are a couple of bug champions on this patch. You would have to look through them. There's things like Syndra, Kiana, from what I've heard, are bugged at the moment, so there might be a couple of champions you have to avoid for Clash, as their win rates are struggling because of a bug, but they might hotfix it by the time we get onto it, along with a Rel hotfix, which is why I haven't added Rel to the jungle tier list yet, but she'll probably get added next patch. I would just avoid her unless she is overwhelmingly strong, which at that point you can pick her up. Amumu is going to move down to the A tier. Amumu got nerfed this patch, so they still don't know what to do with this champion. He's either really strong one patch or not great the next, and they slowly move him down, and he ends up in the A tier. So that is the jungle for changes. I'm going to move Maokai up a tier. Maokai is a really strong pick at the moment. He is still performing relatively well. People have stopped rushing demonics, and in turn his win rate has risen up again. And yeah, it's pretty strong when you have things like a cheaper Radiant, Sunfires. You can go supportive on him. You can run Imperial Mandate. There are options there. As people aren't going the Collector Essence Reaver build on Vi, I'm just going to have to drop her down a tier. But if you're going this build, it is one of the strongest in the game at the moment. Do not sleep on it. She does insane amounts of damage. Collector being buffed this patch also helped this build. Definitely look into it. Should pick it up. It's really strong. It's Eclipse Essence Reaver Collector, or Eclipse Collector Essence Reaver, and she works really well with those items. Like I said, got buffed. Try it. Moving on to the mid lane. Oh wait, I might move Graves up a tier. Yeah, I'm going to move Graves up a tier. There are a couple of changes within the jungle at the moment, which I haven't noted. Actually, I'm gonna leave him in B. People often struggle playing Graves. He is strong if you abuse the items correctly. Things like Youmuu's and Collector are two really strong options on him. Youmuu's did get nerfed this patch, which is why I'm not so like which is why I'm not like eager to move him up, because we don't know massively where he's going to place and whether his mythic should be something like Gale Force now. But Gale Force also did get nerfed. But if you're going Youmuu's Collector, he does perform quite well, and you can consider him an A tier pick at the moment, definitely. Moving on to the mid lane, there are a couple of changes here. Azir is going to move up a tier. He has been buffed this patch. He is performing quite well as a mid laner. If he ever sees pro again, he's going to be 100% pick rate, I reckon, because people will look at him and go, oh, wait, this is how I should be playing him. And Azir then becomes a pro problem, and that's how it is. But if he avoids pro play, or like sees very limited amounts of game, then Azir and solo queue not doing too bad at the moment. The win rate actually looks good for once. Neeko is going to move up to the Z tier. Neeko, insane mid laner at the moment. Great wave clear, incredible damage. So much value in this pick. It's one of the best at the moment. Akali going to move up to the B tier. Akali, 10 more damage on her Q at all ranks. Quite nice for her. Not a huge amount in the top lane, but in the mid lane, definitely acceptable to move up a tier. Twisted Fate also going to move up to the B tier, as his W had its cooldown go from 86 to just 6 seconds flat. He kind of deserves the placement up. Usually Q max first into W, so 2 seconds off for your early levels, so it's really nice on Twisted Fate. ASO is going to move down to the B tier. I hate ASO as a champion. I think he's terrible. I think he's so punishable pre 30 minutes. If you let the game go on plus 30 minutes, the champ does scale, but if you punish him early, he really does not have a huge amount of time to get online, and yeah, he can really struggle. So definitely punish him. Play things like Fizz. A lot of AD champs really abuse ASO, and you will just crush him and have a good time. But if you let him scale, he will be strong, and he is right now kind of still a low elo terror. Just play fast when you're playing against an ASO, and you can consider him like a C tier pick, because he really struggles when overwhelmed. Tristana going to move down 2 tiers. Tristana just not performing anywhere near as well. The mythic, the ADC item changes really hurt Tristana. Losing Kraken as a mythic really hurt this champion. Not a huge amount of changes made. To keep in mind, a lot of mages did get buffed with the Lost Chapter changes, so that is something to be aware of. Going on to the bot lane, there are a lot of changes here. A lot of the ADCs got buffed, nerfed, adjusted with all the mythic items. Aphelios is actually going to move up to the C tier, even though he did get nerfed this patch. He really benefited from Storm Razor and Gale Force being changed. Jinx is going to move down to the B tier. Jinx has really suffered now from being nerfed, Storm Razor and Gale Force being nerfed. So she's going to move down to the B tier. Bot lane is going to see a restructuring. MF is now moving up to the S tier. She is really strong at the moment. The item changes really helped her. Kog'Maw is going to also move up to the S tier. New Ginsu's works quite nicely on him. Jhin is going to move up 2 tiers. Jhin is performing really well with Youmuu's and Gale Force and Storm Razor. All these options are really good for him. Gives him a lot of speed. Lucian going to jump 3 tiers into the S tier. Performs incredibly well with Storm Razor, Gale Force, Collector. You can even go Essence Reaver. New RFC all work really well on Lucian. Has really strong pairings. Consider him a B tier champ if you're not pairing him correctly, but if you're pairing him correctly, he is an S tier champ, definitely. Ziggs is going to move up a tier. Ziggs performing better with the Lost Chapter changes. Karthus also performing better with the Lost Chapter changes. I did have him in Senna tier, but he's being played without Senna a lot, so he is going to move up to the S tier. Yas is going to also move up a tier, performing a lot better this patch with the buffs in the bot lane. Ashe is going to move down 3 tiers. Ashe got absolutely slammed by the changes. Tristana also going to move down 2 tiers. She is not, well, I'm going to put her down to the B tier. She's not performing anywhere near as well as she used to. Both Ashe and Tristana are 2 of the biggest losers in terms of the ADC role at the moment. Caitlyn also just not performing incredibly well. So that is the ADC changes. Moving on into the support category, we are going to see changes to no one in the only really Milio. Going to move up a tier. Milio is considered the only Z tier pick at the moment. His really strong ADC pairings makes him really lethal. Things like Jhin pair nicely with him on top of like your Kog'Maws, your Lucians, your Aphelioses, your Jinxes. Yeah, there's so many strong Milio pairings. Janna is also going to move up a tier, really benefiting from Echoes of Helia and her recent buffs. Nami is also going to move up a tier. It's more of if you have the good pairings with Nami, she's strong. If you don't, she is still you can still consider her a C tier pick. Not really many other changes. Do note Renata struggling with the mythic, struggling with the item changes against a lot of the other supports. Things like Hiyumi doing it a bit better. The engaged supports still rule the bot lane for the most part. There are, of course, good enchanters, things like Jar and Emilio, but a lot of engaged champs really sleeper strong at the moment. Things like Nautilus, really valuable flex pick. Leona, really strong pick. Fresh, a really strong pick. You just have to utilize them well. They have a higher, they have a higher skill ceiling and can bring more value to a team than enchanted support, but are often harder to pilot, which is where you've got to be careful. They often do scale worse than a lot of the enchanted supports, so you've got to be careful on that front as well. But do not sleep on engaged supports. A lot of them are really strong at the moment. Just possibly avoid route unless the changes really buff her to a strong degree. But yeah, those are my thoughts for the Clash tier list. There are a lot of changes. I apologize if I've missed any. I had to quickly try and scrape a bunch of things together. There are just a lot of changes on all these tier lists. A lot of what's dependent on in the game at the moment is the value of bot agency. Of course, with some of our items being nerfed, it does hurt the ability for bot to impact the map. We're seeing a lot of powerful top laners come through as split pushers. Things like Triforce, Stride Breaker, Hole Breaker, Demolish, all really valuable in the top lane at the moment. And just split pushing and just winning the game through that has kind of come out of 13.10 a lot more. There are a lot of stronger champs, of course, which do benefit from like Triforce and Strowbreaker. Almost always go Triforce over Divine Syndera now. Divine Syndera got nerfed, Triforce got buffed. Triforce was already close to being on par with Syndera. It was just kind of sleeper, and now people are starting to realize. But yeah, in general, there are a lot of strong picks at the moment. You can make a lot of things work. Just be careful of a couple of champs which are bugged and a couple of champs which might not be performing because their items have been nerfed and Riot just haven't picked up on them yet, but we should see them get buffed on 13.12. Also be aware things like Kale, stronger without Ginsu's, still go Riftmaker, and there are builds for a lot of these champs which you can use to a degree where they become stronger than a lot of the other champions. Things like Akshan, for example, has a really strong collector, i.e. RFC LDR build, which can make him really powerful, but a lot of people still go on here on him at the moment. Stuff like that. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Lots of strong picks though at the moment. Make sure you're doing your research, building your champ correctly. You should have a good time at Clash. Meta's kind of up in the air to a degree. In Pro, it's still obviously very stale. Hopefully we see some changes to that. But yeah, it's still very much dominated by jungle, ADC, and mid lane is starting to be a bit more powerful. But yeah, still very much focused on getting your bot lane and your jungler ahead. If you can play tank tops or enchanter mid, stuff like this, then there is value there. Engage supports also work quite nicely in the support role. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.